What's up, you guys? Eric here, Driveline World's located steering wheel holder. I'm in a t-shirt today. It is 71 degrees. Nice breeze. Oh man, it's not sunny, but that means I don't got to run any kind of fan or anything, and don't even have to have the windows down on my truck. It's perfect temperature. It's cloudy, a little bit of breeze, 70 degrees, Jasper, Florida. And it is nice to be down here out of that weather, man. I was able to deliver in Florida, Jacksonville. Then I went back up to Atlanta, picked up a load, took it to the Walmart outside of Jacksonville, and now getting ready tonight to go up to Atlanta to pick up a load going to Louisiana. So for now, I'm just staying south and out of that stuff. But because of some of the things that I went through in that weather, it made me think about some of these media stories that are popping up again. Actually, they're always popping up about AI, autonomous trucks, robot trucks, all this shit that you guys see out there all the time. And that's what we're going to talk about today. My APU is screaming back there, so I put my mic on. Hopefully that helps. I don't have the noise cancellation running on it, but hopefully it helps. So I'm still kind of fighting this cold off, but man, it's helping being down here. It's helping. It's like I've massive improvements today, and was able to get some good rest this morning, and I'm just feeling a lot better. So in the summer, I tend to not come to Florida, try to avoid it as much as possible, but in the winter, bring it. I was very happy to go up and get that shuttle load out of Georgia to bring back down here, because it didn't even go into Florida. I mean, it came into Florida technically, but just off of 10, you know. And it paid $2 a mile with the deadhead. So I've been able for the last couple days just stay between Florida and Georgia. And now I'm going to be staying on the southern tier going into Baton Rouge. And this is the way in the winter right now. But if you guys recall, I think it was a couple videos ago, I was talking about all the problems I'm having with all my sensors and everything. I am going to get it looked at because I think there's some corrosion and salt stuff that's happening with some of my sensors. And I had this problem last year, and they cleaned up the ABS sensor and was able to get it to come back on. But I've had all these problems with my sensors since that first big 2 or 3 days of snow that I had to deal with up in Ohio. And there was just a ton of salt, which I finally got my truck washed, by the way. Ton of salt just everywhere. I mean, my truck was caked top to bottom. I got the undercarriage, I got the engine washed. I did it all to get all that salt off. And it just really messed with my sensors. And again, the same thing happened last year. So it got me thinking, because I saw this media story again. And this one was like doom and gloom for truck drivers of like, you know, basically truck drivers need to start planning their exit is basically what this story was saying, because robot trucks or AI trucks and all this autonomous trucks are, you know, around the corner, and they're going to start taking our jobs faster than we realize. Now, I've said this in a video before. I had a family member, this would be about a decade ago, almost 10 years ago. No, not 10 years, probably about 7 years ago. And he was 1,000% convinced, and is bringing up all this evidence and all these stats and everything, like 1,000% convinced that we had 5 years, and it was game over. Freight was going to be moving autonomously. Truck drivers weren't going to have jobs. Game over. He's like, this technology, when it happens fast, and it just swoops in, and before you know it, it's like the whole thing has changed. Well, that 5 years has passed, and we are, in my view, no closer than we were 5 years ago or 7 years ago, or whatever it was, when that proclamation was made. There are some autonomous trucks that move freight short distances on pre-planned routes and stuff like that, like out in California, where they're testing some of this stuff. But you got to understand that these are very controlled scenarios. Like it's very controlled in terms of weather, conditions, surroundings, routes, all of the above. Being able to have fully, if it's electric, fully charged before it departs, and pre-planned charging points, and usually they're not running these things 600, 700, 800 miles. So there are some things that are happening, but here's something I think for the non-truck driver out there. What you have to understand is that those of us in newer trucks that are truck drivers, we have years of experience in a truck that has all the technology that they claim is going to move freight autonomously. And I can tell you that the technology that's in these trucks is about as ignorant and dumb as it could possibly be. I mean, it is just really fundamentally it's as basic as it gets. In fact, most of the autonomous technology that's in my truck, and there's a lot of it, I can't remember the level that my truck is probably 10 years or older. It hasn't necessarily been used in these trucks for 10 years, but it's been in development and design for more than a decade, probably. Things like lane departure, brake assist, front radar cruise control, hill assist, traction control, just all that, collision warning, all that stuff is a part of the autonomous system that runs these trucks. And of course, now we have the AI cameras, the front and inward facing camera that's connected into the truck with the geotab, and all that stuff is connected, all the critical event reporting, all that stuff. And this is basically the technology that is supposed to move freight autonomously. Now, let me say, I do think that it is an eventuality that freight will move anonymously. But I also believe that that'll probably occur under technology and software that we're not currently familiar with or using. And maybe it's in development, or maybe someone's concocting it or thinking it up. But it will eventually happen. It's inevitable. I don't know if that's 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. I don't know. I mean, maybe freight just flies around in the sky 100 years from now, Jetson style. I don't know. But all of these big media stories that are thumping their chest claiming that we need to be thinking of an exit strategy are delusional. It's absolutely delusional. My truck, using all of its autonomous features last week during the winter storms, would have just buckled under pressure and shut itself down. It would not have been able to function. All of its sensors that determine whether or not it's straight in a lane, whether or not there's something in front of it that's moving too slow or too fast, whether or not there's something that's too low for the truck to go underneath, whether or not it can stop itself from losing traction, or from the brakes locking up. All that stuff failed. All of it. It all failed. So in order for this truck to move the freight that it needed to move last week, it had to have me, because I'm the only part that didn't fail. All of its autonomous stuff failed. It couldn't see in the blowing snow. The sensors were caked up with salt and ice, and on and on and on. That is the current autonomous technology. Now, that doesn't mean that type of technology can't work on a 300-mile run in Southern California. It doesn't mean it can't work on a 300-mile run between Laredo and Houston, for example. But the idea that that is 2, 3, 4, 5 years away from running all truck freight is laughable. It's delusional. The reason you have all these media stories out there is because those are outfits, those are startups, those are development firms that need research grants and funding. And the way to get research grants and funding is to keep yourself relevant in the media. So they have PR outfits and PR firms that go take these journalists to steak dinners and get these big fluff piece stories written. And all of a sudden, people who don't know any better see that and say, oh my God, freight's going to be moving autonomously in a couple years. They've been saying that for 10 years, you guys. And we're not anywhere closer. You take a truck that's 80,000 pounds without a driver and try to get it across Nebraska, Wyoming, Utah, Oregon, or Washington in January. It's not going to happen. Not under the current technology. It's not going to happen. Again, this software is not smart. It's ignorant, especially the AI cameras in these inward-facing and outward-facing cameras. Now, the AI component of it, I guess, would be that it's like learning things. And look, at the end of the day, it's all code. It's program stuff. The reason this camera is so ignorant and the software in it is so ignorant is because it's programmed. It's not intelligent. It's not thinking for itself. It doesn't have a brain that's like evaluating scenarios and reacting in a sort of human-like nature. It's a program. It's software, and it's confined by its programmatic language. It is confined. It's ignorant. It's not intelligent. And a perfect example of that is that this system cannot figure out how to pass a vehicle that's going 2 or 3 miles less in a safe manner. It just doesn't know how to do it. It can't do it. Because the only way for that to occur, if I'm doing 65 miles per hour and a truck in front of me is doing 62, and then there's cars coming on the left that are doing 80 or 90, the only way to do it, if you're going to get past that vehicle, is to get closer to it than is the safe travel distance between the two vehicles. And then when you have a gap on the left, move over behind one of the vehicles that are doing 20 miles per hour faster than you, and then get past that vehicle and safely move over. In this programmed artificial intelligence system, that's all unsafe and that's all wrong, and you can't do any of it. So I guess this system would just, instead of driving 65, would just drop to 62 and stay behind that truck forever, because it's not programmed to allow it to think of what functions to do to perform to get past that truck in front of it. It just can't, because it's programmed to maintain a safe distance no matter what the scenario is. It doesn't matter if the car that's moving in the left lane is doing 90 miles an hour and you're doing 65 and you get behind it, because you can see with your intelligence, you can see that vehicle is doing 90 miles an hour and racing away from you. This thing wants to tell me that I can't get behind it because the distance is too short. But if I waited longer, there's another car coming, and thus I can't ever get past the vehicle in front of me. So I guess some of you could say, well, you just don't pass the vehicle. Yeah, but that's not the real world. The real world is not that if a vehicle is doing 57 and I need to do 65, that I just have to do the next 300 miles at 57. That's not the real world. The real world is I'm going to find what I judge to be a safe, operable passage to get around that vehicle. And I've proven with almost 6 years of driving that I do it safely. And by the way, I don't change anything. This camera, snipes at me about it. Oh, maintain safe distance. Look, I am maintaining safe distance. If the car's doing 90 and I'm doing 65, I can get behind the car and it's all safe. I can see it all with my eyes because I have intelligence. I can watch all this happening. It's ignorant. It can't figure all that out. It can't process all that. It's just a program, and it's told to do one thing, and it's told to do one thing based on programmed parameters and variables. That's the algorithm it runs on, and it cannot work its way out of that. In order for it to be intelligent, it would have to be able to work all the surroundings, work the real world scenarios, and figure out how to move the freight in a safe manner based on the reality around it. It's not intelligent. It's ignorant. And you know, all the other things that I've talked about just the cameras aren't anywhere near as picky now. I'll tell you that. They did a software update or something a few weeks ago. I'm not really sure what the update they did, but the thing doesn't yell at me for much of anything anymore. Other than maintain safe distance. That's basically the only thing it yells at me for now. But, you know, things like rubbing your beard or, you know, a yawn here or there, that, again, a yawn does not mean that you're driving drowsy. I drive at night almost exclusively every night. I probably yawn 3 or 4 or 5 times a night in a 400 or 500 mile drive. Harmless, absolutely harmless. It's because I'm driving in the middle of the night. I'm listening to podcasts. It's a yawner. It doesn't mean that I'm driving unsafe or drowsy, but this thing can't determine that. It's not intelligent. It can't figure out that I just may have had a good 8 hours of sleep. I got a good cup of coffee. I'm good to go. I could drive another 200 or 300 miles. It can't figure that out because it's programmed to be ignorant and see if it thinks your mouth is yawning that you must be driving drowsy. There's nothing intelligent about that at all. And of course they'll argue, well, it learns, you know, it takes a lot of things into account and it learns. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's programmed to process things a certain way, and it can't figure out how to rewrite its program to take into account reality. And this is really the case with all the autonomous features on trucks. So we're not anywhere, like I'm just telling you guys, if you're not a truck driver and you're one out there that makes the argument that it's coming, look, it is inevitable. I won't argue with you on that. But as I've said before, I don't think that you'll have mass freight movement by autonomous vehicles until almost all vehicles are autonomous, because you need all vehicles to operate as a node on a network so that the network knows what all nodes are doing. Because otherwise this intelligence just can't account for and function in real world environments and real world situations. So it's just, you know, I think really now that I have this AI in my truck, it's very aggravating that we seem to be attaching AI to so much stuff, like artificial intelligence. There's so much stuff that's being considered artificial intelligence that's just programs. It's just software and it's just programs. There's not anything intelligent. The intelligence, maybe it was intelligently programmed. Maybe someone who programmed it had intelligence, but the thing itself is not intelligent. It's just hardware with software inside of it, and it's a program. It's not using, you know, large language models or anything like that. There's not some big server rack in the back of the truck with this thing about to become sentient, like, you know, whatever the fuck it's called. You know what I'm talking about, the movie Terminator. Like, it's not, or Matrix or any of that, you know, it's not intelligent. It's actually artificial ignorance, because it's artificially ignorant. Like it just because it's just a program, it's just software. So, you know, when you see these stories out there, and I saw a bunch of people freaking out, you're like, how worried about this should we be? This was on X, and there were 300 or 400 comments on this thing. Oh, I've been telling my brother this, you know, we've been driving for 10 years and we're starting to prep right now and think about this. Like, what are you talking about, man? This truck is not going to be pulling a loaded trailer autonomously across that shit I went through in Ohio in 5 years. Not going to happen. No way that's going to happen. All it would take is just one instance of a sensor getting covered up and it kills a family of 5 in a minivan. And what do you think is going to happen? You think oh yeah, let's do more of this. No, this is a long ways off before look, most of you who are watching this can probably still have a full career in trucking before all truck freight is moved autonomously. That's the truth and the reality of it. So anyway, that's my opinion. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but that's my 2 cents. So I figured I'd throw that out there for you guys to chew on. Be safe, make good decisions, always drive, thrive. Talk to y'all soon.